Thank you. Thank you for having me. I very much appreciate the opportunity to share with you some of my work and to compare the work that you are doing with what we're doing in the United States. So the first thing I'd like to do is to just define what we see is a learning assistant. It's an undergraduate student who encourages discussions among students in classes that actively engage students. Our model has 4 goals: curriculum and course transformation. Then we do discipline-based educational research on our transformations. Pre-college teacher recruitment and preparation, and broad institutional change. And the LAs really facilitate a lot of this work. So the first thing to look at is at the course scale, the focus is on student learning, including the learning assistants. On the institutional scale, the focus is on learning of faculty, the program response to research, that is the program's learning, and then the institution's learning or institutional change. There are 3 main parts of the LA experience: content, practice, and pedagogy. The first is content. LAs are a part of the instructional team. They work with their lead instructor and they plan for class, and they give the instructor information about how students are experiencing the course. So this information goes back and forth from the instructor and the students through the LA. And they do pedagogy. They have weekly pedagogy course where they learn practical strategies as well as the learning theory that underlies those strategies. And all of this feeds into all components of the program as everybody learns what's going on around campus. We also have advanced LAs with mentoring training that come and mentor the new LAs. Here is kind of a generalized model of course transformation with LAs. In the traditional model, you have like one instructor and a whole bunch of students. In our general LA model, you have the instructor who works with the LAs, and then each LA works with learning teams to help these undergraduate students learn. At the same time, though, the LAs are a part of the instructional team working directly with instructors to really imagine the class in the future and analyze the past. There are also graduate teaching assistants that often work in these settings. There are many different uses of LAs at CU Boulder, not just one way. There's large lecture where you have one instructor or graduate TA and the LAs in various places. The small lecture, interactive lecture, where the students work in groups and the LAs walk around. There's labs where they're actually engaging in scientific experiments or engineering design. Office hours, and of course, online classes have become a little more popular these days. The program has shown many, many impacts: improved student learning outcomes in courses, decreased failure in gateway courses, greater persistence to graduation among LAs, academic and social inclusion of students who are in these sessions, and institutional change more broadly. The LA programs tend to grow, and as you can see at CU Boulder, since we began, we've grown quite a bit, and we add new departments every single year. And now we have history, business, Russian, as compared to just mostly STEM in the beginning. The learning outcomes are increased in chemistry after LAs were introduced. Here, we did the post-test and the pre-test with active engagement, but no LAs. And then when we added LAs, you see that we had a replicable, much higher learning outcome in those settings. We also see longitudinal effects in physics. This is a test that's taken after completing upper division physics. And these are students who did not, as freshmen, have a learning assistant supported electricity and magnetism course. These ones did have the LA course when they were freshmen, and these are the LAs themselves. We also see improvements in graduation rate, and we matched a matched sample to LAs, and we see a 97% graduation rate for LAs compared to 88% for their peers. And here's how we matched them. We've also found that interacting with an LA in one or more classes impacts later classes in terms of your whether or not you fail the course. We did a study with 32,000 students in chemistry, physics, and calculus from 2001 to 2016. Only instructors were included in the study if they had taught both with and without LAs. So we included both of those classes. The students who had had at least one course with LAs were compared to those with no LA courses. The finding is that the failure rate in chemistry, physics, and calculus was decreased by 60% for the students who had had at least one class with LAs. We also find that some LAs become pre-college teachers. And here you can see that after the LA program is fully established at CU Boulder, that's when we really start to see increases in the number of students who become pre-college STEM teachers in this case. Other universities throughout the United States are showing similar impacts. So here we're looking at the failure rates in LA-supported STEM courses in Metropolitan State University. And just like at Colorado, we see that the failure rate is lower in classes that have LAs. At Texas State University, we see that the number of physics majors increased after the physics department started to use LAs. And most of those were women. So the LA program began here, and the number of women majoring in physics increased. So that accounts for some of this increase in majors. At Rochester Institute of Technology, in different disciplines, calculus, pre-calculus, applied calculus, physics, and genetics, we also see the lower failure rate for instructors that use LAs compared to the departmental average. This is similar data, only here we're comparing instructors without LAs to instructors with LAs in terms of their failure rate. And then when we take a look at a slice from 1 year at CU Boulder, we hire about 410 learning assistants in 100 learning assistant supported courses, in about 15 departments, in 4 colleges within CU, and we impact approximately 25,000 seats. And the cost of the program ends up being about $50 US dollars per impacted student. So we have to ask the question, how does the LA model produce these outcomes? And that's something we weren't really sure of. So we asked these research questions. How do students view their interactions with undergraduate learning assistants? How do students view their interactions with graduate level teaching assistants? And what model can explain how the interactions how these interactions lead to valued outcomes, such as those like learning gains, retention, and persistence? So the data we used was student interviews and LA written reflections. Our research method was qualitative coding. And our data were 24 students in LA supported chemistry course. 2 of the interview questions were analyzed. Describe your LA. And what is the difference between an LA and a graduate TA? And also 794 LA teaching reflections were evaluated. The question in those teaching reflections was, what does it mean to be an LA? Our findings for question 1, how do students view their LA interactions? There were 3 main categories. 3. LAs have general knowledge. They said that LAs have knowledge specific to the class because they had just taken it. They have disciplinary knowledge. They have fresh knowledge. And they're invested in our knowledge development. In pedagogy, 18% of the statements fell into that category. In pedagogy, they said that LAs explain better, that they figure out what I know before offering help. They help us construct knowledge rather than just giving it to us. And they offer general assistance. And 29% of the statements were in this category. In social emotional, they said that LAs they're like me. They understand me. They care about me. They're approachable. They're personable. And they figure out what I know without making me feel dumb. And 50% of the statements fell into that category. This is how they described the graduate teaching assistants, who they also loved very much. The graduate teaching assistants, they know more or different content than the LAs. They're perceived higher than us. They don't have knowledge specific to this class since they took it so long ago. In pedagogy, they said that the graduate TAs direct the classroom. They're more like teachers. They're in charge of our grades. They didn't really get what we're asking. And they explain sometimes at too high of a level. In social emotional, they said that graduate TAs are different from us. They are authority figures. They don't understand us. They sometimes make us feel uncomfortable. They stand over you. They're intimidating, but they're very, very helpful. So, given those findings, what model can explain why the presence of undergraduate learning assistants in classes lead to those valued outcomes? And here's my explanatory model for why this happens. If you think about the graduate TAs and probably professors, they're seen as legitimate participants in the disciplines and in the institution. They're also seen as having control of the classroom, in control of grades, and dictating the class. In social and emotional, they're hard to relate to and access. So they're seen as a part of the institutionalized practices. They're embedded within university structures. But meanwhile, the undergraduate students remain distant from these structures. Yet the LAs are both a part of the institutional structures and a part of the student body. I'll show you the results again to make my point. LAs are seen as legitimate members of the instructional team. They have specialized training in pedagogical content and inclusion. And they understand how we feel, what we're going through, and they know how to interact with us. Let's take another look at the same results. They have general knowledge. They have fresh knowledge. They have knowledge specific to this class, and they're invested in my knowledge development. They explain better. They help me learn. They push us to do better, and they figure out what I know. LAs are approachable. They understand me. They are like me, and they care about me. So if you look at the way these go in towards the student's sense of self, you start to realize that the LA is actually connecting them. And when you look at the combinations of these, they have pedagogical knowledge, they include me, and they invite students into the discipline because they still know where the door is. They actually bridge from where the student is to where the institution is. They bridge students to the academy, improving integration and belonging. And there's a lot of literature that connects social and academic integration and belonging to traditionally valued outcomes. Here's some of it. I'm not going to talk about it, but there is a lot of connection of that. So when we look at a different representation of the model, we see that LAs have content, course, and school knowledge. LAs use pedagogical practices, and LAs care about the students. And we saw this already. These overlapping areas are helping me learn, including me, and inviting me into the discipline. This is what the graduate TAs and faculty are very good at. They're experts in this area. However, the LAs are adding this social emotional component to students' learning. It's a more complete instructional team. So I just want to show you some quotations from some of these reflections of what it means to be an LA. All responses were using the same categories. In all three categories, I believe being an LA constitutes forming relationships with both students and the course instructor. I think the ideal role of an LA is to bridge between what we're doing in class and the more hands-on experiential learning that can take place in our intimate LA sessions. Promoting intellectual growth and cultivating an interest in giving us in the subject is something I would include. For just these two, it means assisting students in the best positive way. This includes not only providing assistance with questions, but encouraging positive learning environment where everybody feels they can ask a question. In knowledge, it's an LA is a student that has already taken the course and succeeded in it. They understand concepts and difficult parts of the course, and they have the desire and ability to share that. In social emotional, it means just caring about others. An LA, like myself, understands the difficulties that many of their students are going through, and they want to show them how to get through it by using encouragement. I'm going to show you, it means to help give students the tools to guide their ideas so that they can learn more. And we are not teaching, I'm sorry, this thing is covering my, we're guiding them to learn the concepts. So in this combined category, being an LA means to bridge between the knowledge of the professors and the student experience. Even the best teachers can't connect with every student, and it can sometimes be much easier to bond with an educator who is the same level as you. To be in LA is to aid students in their learning process by introducing tools such as bridging, metacognition, and these techniques will help them find answers as opposed to teaching them the answer yourself, like a TA or a professor might. In knowledge and social emotional, promoting intellectual growth and cultivating an interest in a given subject is something I would include of what it means to be in LA. Learning is not just about content. It's also advocating for acceptance within and outside the field of concepts. In order to advance STEM professionals and build knowledge, LAs are in a place to promote active learning, communication, and advocacy, showing genuine enthusiasm. Inspire. Fellow undergraduates are less intimidating. They have an easier time forming relationships and encourage excitement. They can additionally describe how to become more aware of some tricks of the trade that seem like magic. In inclusion and pedagogy, I think our main job is to help students feel comfortable asking questions in a big class, which you could feel alone and voiceless. Being in LA means to be a mentor for people of a similar age, to reach out without feeling afraid and the fear of being embarrassed. The role of an LA is to also help create an environment conducive to learning, meaning that it is our responsibility to create an environment free from judgment, discrimination, and harassment, and being the student's voice to the professor and passing comments from students. So when you think about kind of like how the LA connects the student to the whole academy, they act as a bridge for students to connect them in a more approachable way to their graduate level TAs and professors. To new students, talking to these people is intimidating. So having somebody in an undergraduate position can help voice their opinions. But they do both. They make both peer and educator role, which allows breaking down psychological barriers in the minds of students due to formal boundaries, preventing them from appearing incompetent. And my work involves working with the university to provide meaningful feedback on methods of instruction and their students on the effectiveness of the LA program as a whole. So the Learning Assistant Alliance is an alliance of 15 countries, 399 institutions, and over 2,000 members, where there's a lot of assistance available. The LAA Learning Assistant Alliance mission is to connect institutions to support the implementation and assessment of the LA model. There are several useful resources for you. There is the international community where you can connect with people who are just like you and studying similar things. There's a software for managing the LA program and the longitudinal data. There's an automated assessment system that can help you assess your pre and post students. And then there's a whole bunch of program resources for helping you implement various new things in the LA program. So here are some references that may be helpful for you going forward. And I'm happy to entertain questions at this time. I finished early. Wow. So thank you very much.